Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The extent of the state's housing crisis has been laid bare at the first meeting of a new ministerial group designed to tackle growing challenges in the sector. Housing and homelessness advocates clashing with policymakers as they try to come up with a long-term plan to keep vulnerable Tasmanians off the streets.
In the grip of an escalating problem.
Once we thought it was just for people on benefits, but now we're seeing waged earners needing that housing. So we need to really ramp up what we're doing around housing.
The experts were given a chance to come to the table and highlight the issues.
Common themes that came through from today, planning, land release, ongoing funding, headworks issues.
Providers weren't mincing their words around the importance of a place to call home.
They can hold all the things that they love about their lives in that place, and it's important that we don't lose sight of this. It's not just about housing, it's about the people.
But the opposition aren't convinced the new ministerial reference group would lead the government to take action.
They've organised a roundtable very similar to the one that they held 4.5 years ago, with the same heads around the same table, who they have ignored for the intervening 4 years.
The state defending its efforts.
We are on track to build 1,500 new homes, social and affordable homes by 30 June next year, and our plan is the most ambitious in Tasmanian history.
Supply is the biggest thing we can do, along with the associated policy settings around support.
Housing advocates also used the meeting to highlight the need for a dedicated strategy into women facing homelessness, with the cohort making up 72% of people turned away from specialist services in Tasmania.
And we know that older women are the largest, quickest group of people experiencing homelessness, and that's a pretty sad tale.
Leaving hopeful of action.
What's important now is what comes from that meeting.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, the housing crisis is dominating conversation at tonight's HOBART City Council meeting. Reporter Grace Evans joins us to tell us more. Grace, a crucial vote on the impact of short stay accommodation in the state's capital is being debated.
Kim, yes, more than 100 public responses have been received in relation to proposed amendments, which are planning to crack down on converting entire homes into short-stay accommodation. Councillors are currently deliberating before they vote to endorse a report. It will then be placed in the Tasmanian Planning Commission's hands for the final decision on whether a ban goes ahead. A recent independent report by Shelter Tasmania highlighted the extent of the problem. The group joins a chorus of support services who want to see change in the sector. Kim?
Well, when Tasmania's borders opened back in December, the state was overrun by Omicron. Contact tracing fell by the wayside, and now it's been revealed how much the state paid for these short-lived services.
As Tasmanians prepared for borders to open, enhanced tracing was sold as a key part of our Delta Shield.
We're as prepared as we could possibly be.
Not-for-profit Health Direct Australia was contracted from September last year until June to perform tracing along with COVID at home monitoring and welfare checks. But as our original Omicron outbreak was seeded, processors were quickly overwhelmed. By New Year's Day, the number of daily cases was above 100. Less than a week later, the list of exposure sites was abandoned and 1,500 new cases were recorded. The Health Department has now revealed through right to information requests that those short-lived services cost the state $1.6 million.
That's an outrageous payment. The fact about this issue clearly is that there's been lack of oversight, lack of planning.
Acting State Health Commander Dale Webster said in a statement payment was only made for work undertaken and that decisions were made due to the rapid spread of the Omicron variant and level of transmission within the community. Labor says a genuine effort to contain the outbreak should have been made.
Basically, as soon as borders were opened, they abandoned contract tracing.
With the government saying once again we're prepared for the winter COVID wave, critics argue past form doesn't bode well.
They're clearly not. And certainly the workers in our public health system don't feel like the government's prepared at all.
As of today, 285 THS staff are furloughed due to COVID. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A man accused of stabbing a Hobart midwife to death on Christmas Day is still yet to enter a plea, more than 6 months on from the alleged murder. Darren Wake faced the Hobart Magistrates Court via video link this morning. His lawyer indicated she is still waiting on a report which will likely determine the plea. The failure to salvage 2 tugs at the bottom of the Mersey River is heavily impacting the state's fuel distributors. Poor weather conditions are contributing to the lengthy delays, pushing back the recovery of the wreckage.
Nearly 6 months after cement carrier Goliath crashed into 2 stationary tugboats at the port of Devonport, salvage operations remain stagnant.
This was a really significant maritime safety incident and really complex, and it's taken a long time to work through. And it's very rare to see this sort of incident around the world, let alone in the Southern Hemisphere.
The priority is still protecting human safety and the environment, as 10,000 litres of fuel is still believed to be on board the sunken tugs. A highly specialised crane barge will eventually travel from the port of Brisbane to help remove the wreckage, but a timeline is yet to be confirmed.
It has been delayed over the last couple of weeks as we've dealt with serious weather events off the east coast of Australia.
BONNEY Energy is facing delays at the terminals, with some drivers waiting up to 5 hours to fill up.
The delays are fairly frustrating at the moment. However, we're in a good time of year for it. Our concern is mostly that if the issues aren't resolved once things get busier in sort of September, that then we're going to start running into some further problems.
Tas Petroleum has also aired its grievances. General Manager Nathan Thurlow has said in an email to the government, claiming the delays has resulted in severe driver fatigue, missed planned maintenance and all-time high retail petrol prices passed on to motorists. The salvage operation has hit a number of roadblocks, but the fuel industry is hopeful of a resolution later this month.
Everything going well, we should see the crane barge down here hopefully by the end of July, maybe early August. Again, our concern is that there might be another unforeseen problem.
The state government has held crisis talks with operators, helping navigate uncharted waters. MAKENNA, BAILY, 7 Tasmania News.
Staff shortages and a surplus of passengers have placed the state's airports under more pressure. One local traveller left in the lurch and demanding answers as her plane flew off without her.
Amanda Perkins had already checked in for her flight to Melbourne when Virgin Airlines sent her an email saying the trip had been axed. But with a friend still preparing to board, the dots weren't lining up.
You don't say you've cancelled a flight but keep the flight running. What they've done is lied to me.
Failing to provide an explanation or alternative flight, Amanda was left scrambling to make expensive last-minute plans.
It cost me another $520 to get a Qantas flight.
3 Melbourne-bound flights from Launceston Airport were abandoned today, our former Premier among those caught up in the cancellations. Meanwhile, Hobart Airport had a busy but mostly seamless day as Tasmania embarked on school holidays.
Got about 68 flights, which is at the upper end of our usual range of 50 to 70 in a day.
Virgin did scrap a flight to Melbourne, with Qantas also running behind schedule.
The flight today has only been delayed by half an hour.
The setbacks stemming from chaotic scenes due to staff shortages on the mainland.
The most common reason for delays we're seeing at the moment is the late arrival of the incoming aircraft, so there's delays elsewhere in the system that then flow on to us.
It's quieter than normal in other airports that I've been to. Some of them are really noisy.
Approximately 110,000 passengers passed through Sydney's terminal today. Brisbane Airport also experiencing its second busiest day since the pandemic as students returned for school. Tourism experts reminding travellers to turn up early and expect delays. BRIANNA, BOYLEN, 7 Tasmania News.
And Tasmanians can now get their hands on tickets for the new Melbourne-Devonport route taking flight next month. Rex Airlines will operate twice daily trips on weekdays, with passengers choosing between a morning or evening journey. Flights on the weekend will also be available, with prices sitting around the $149 mark each way. The valuable contributions made by volunteers to the Northern Tasmanian region is being celebrated by the Launceston Council. Hundreds of volunteers will be recognised across 2 events at the Tramsheds Function Centre.
Volunteering is at the heart of our community, and that our community just couldn't continue without the impact that volunteers make. So today's just an opportunity to stop and to say thanks to the volunteers that make Launceston what it is.
More than 55 organisations will be represented, with the final luncheon held tomorrow.
Launceston gun Jackson Thurlow says he's relishing the chance to chase a second TSL premiership. Fresh off an 8-goal haul against the Tigers on Saturday, the 28-year-old says the gravity of the moment didn't hit him in 2011 when he was part of the champion Blues.
I just thought from then on I'd be playing in grand finals every year, but I haven't played finals footy for 3 or 4 years, so I'm really looking forward to hopefully this year, you know, going deep into finals and playing some good footy.
The Blues face crosstown rivals North Launceston at UTAS Stadium this weekend. To the Crips TSL Player of the Year votes now after round 15. Harry Bales bags 3 votes for his best on-ground performance for North Launceston. Jackson Thurlow's 8-goal haul unsurprisingly sees him given 3 votes after Launceston's 82-point thumping of the Tigers. And the judges were pretty sure Jack Preshaw was the best player in Clarence's 66-point win over Glenorchy. To the leaderboard, and the top 5 remains unchanged, with Clarence's Sam Siggins holding a 4-point lead over Launceston's Joby Harper. Scott Roth is giving his right-hand ant a chance to step up. Jacob Chance will now serve as associate head coach of the Jack Jumpers, with the club saying the promotion is reflective of his efforts in their inaugural season. The 28-year-old is currently assisting the Boomers in their FIBA Asia Cup campaign. Tasmanian triathlete Cameron Worth has scored a double delight at the Ironman Vitoria in Spain. Worth's reliable bike leg saw him lead the race with only the marathon run to go. But in the brutal Spanish sun, he was slowed and he was passed by fellow Aussie Nick Castelline with only 4 kilometres to go. He still claimed a podium finish and has qualified for the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. Launceston's Henry Yule has nabbed some silverware in the Lucerne round of the Rowing World Cup. The Australian men's 8 started strongly, but England were rowing at an awesome pace and held the lead to the line. The Aussies prevailing in a tight contest with the Germans for 2nd place.
Good evening. Hobart 14 degrees today, Launceston 13, Burney and Devonport 15. Now that was the high, also recorded by a number of centres including Wynyard, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Strawn. Low Head and the Islands 14, St Helens 13, Bushy Park 10 and Lyawini 4. The overnight low -3 at Butler's Gorge. Some low cloud over the north and west today, some higher level cloud also in the mix ahead of the next front to the west. That front has cloud over South Australia and Western Victoria as well. An onshore flow pushes cloud over the eastern coastal fringes. Tomorrow the front crosses in the morning. That heralds a cold blast from the southerly change, the next high over South Australia. So the northwesterly winds will give way to those southerlies during the day, 5 to 15 knots inland and to 20 knots over the west and south. Hobart 12 and showery. Adventure Bay 11, a top of 9 for Tarraleah after a cool start with showers easing. 12 for Launceston, showers easing, clearing from Devonport as well, 13 the top and 12 the high for Bridport. Burney, a shower or 2 clearing, 13 the maximum, 12 for Strawn, a shower or 2 for Marrawar and 12 degrees. St Helens a high of 12 as well, with showers, Swansea the same and 13 the top for Whitemark. On Wednesday, temperatures struggling into double figures, a shower or 2 over the west, south and east coasts, snow to 700 metres, a cold start to Thursday with an easing shower over the west, and on Friday a partly cloudy day with a shower over the west and Bass Strait. A sunny 19 in Perth tomorrow, showers developing over Adelaide but easing from Melbourne, a partly cloudy day in Sydney, 17 the top, 20 and a shower in Brisbane.